And Susan, there's news now from Ronna McDaniel and the RNC. The RNC is just voting, and we've heard some preliminary steps toward this, voting against participating in the 2024 debates if they are led by the Commission on Presidential Debates, which has led these debates in a bipartisan way for decades, objecting to the choices of moderators, to the format, to the other decisions made in 2020. Now, we know there's a long way down the road, and we don't know who's going to be in charge of the Republican National Committee and what's going to happen in the midterms and a lot of other things, but they're staking a claim against what they have been long criticizing, which is the Commission on Debates.
This is really terrible news, I think, because the Commission on Presidential Debates was formed to take control of the debate process in presidential elections, to set up an infrastructure that made it hard for candidates of either party to refuse to debate. And if we're going to go back to the kind of Wild West we had before then, where you had endless negotiations and different organizers trying to host debates, you run the risk of not having presidential debates, of not having the two candidates who are vying to lead our nation being forced to stand side by side and answer independent-minded questions. So I think this has been a long time coming. Republicans have long been unhappy with the commission, but I think this is bad news for our democracy.
It's always bad news for democracy. Hey, look, here's what we're going to do. Is it Susan Page at the USA Today? And, of course, we got Andrea Mitchell and Phil Meltdown. The whole panel melted down there today. You're going to get the Democratic Party is going to get a democracy suppository on November 8th as we run the tables on them. This is all about destroying the Democratic Party as a national political institution, whether we're doing that at the Loudoun County School Board. In fact, we have Brother Mineo on here coming on in a little while about Loudoun County and what's going on. It's Monday, Thursday, Holy Thursday. It's the 14th of April, the year of our Lord 2022. I want to start with the guy who conceived this, executed it, and got a unanimous vote at the RNC, Dave Bossie. Dave is traveling today. Dave, thank you for carving some time out to join us. I know you're on the road. And I tell you something, Bossie, because I know you so well. You've got a twofer. You put Rig the movie out. You got Zuckerberg on the run. You got his lawyers. You got his lawyers saying that he's not going to put any more money in CTCL. That's a couple of days after your film premiered. Rig 2020 appeared down in Mar-a-Lago, and then a unanimous vote by the RNC. And people should understand the RNC is not chock-a-block with MAGA. It's not wall to wall with a Trump-anistas. Dave Bossie, go through there. They said this is terrible for democracy, that this would stop the Wild West, that you always had fair moderators. And this was a system. You're the guy that on 16 was deputy campaign manager. You were in charge of this. You saw what they did to Trump. You've been working on this for a while. Walk us through the process, what happened today. Why is this a big deal?
Well, it's a very big deal for 2024 and the future of the Republican Party and for America, to be candid with you, Steve. And you were there with me in 16. You brought me there in 2016. So look, people need to know that this, for it to be a threat of our democracy is literally that's clownish for Susan Page to say that. I mean, I like her, but that's a ridiculous thing to say. And what we are doing is we're saving democracy. This is the opposite. We are saying that the Commission on Presidential Debate is broken and biased. And they were created, yes, 30 years ago. And yes, they were created to bring together common interests and have it worked out. Well, guess what? They broke it. We didn't break it. They broke the system, and we are not putting up with it anymore. And that is what the statement, a unanimous, I don't think people who are listening here understand what it takes to get a unanimous vote inside the Republican National Committee. It is made up of people all the way on the left in our party, the Charlie Bakers, the Larry Hogans, the Mitt Romneys, that wing of the party, all the way to the MAGA hardliners and the Trump folks. and everybody in between. And to get a unanimous decision means that's how bad the CPD was. It's a reflection of that. And so they had biased moderators, biased questioning. They made universal decisions on behalf of the candidates without consulting, which is in the rules. They must consult with the candidates. It was a host of problems. They knew they had problems, and I stood there next to President Trump when he would tell the then chairman Frank Fahrenkopf and Mike McCurry, and you were there, Steve, in 2016, and you and I just stood there and watched in awe of President Trump tearing their faces off for the biased treatment that he was receiving in 2016. And then I saw it again firsthand in 2020. And it's unacceptable what this commission did, and we're done with them. And by the way, there's going to be great presidential debate. These people who have lost their minds and everything's a threat to democracy, there's going to be great presidential debate. Who says we have to hand off the power to the CPD? We're going to have great presidential debates, and we're going to make sure they're fair and honest for the American people, because we all know that when the American people get a fair and honest debate, conservatives are going to win.
Can I break news right now, because I want media to know this and all the left-wing media that follows us, that Dave's already granted to War Room the first president. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know where this. I'm just kidding. But not that Bossie and I haven't discussed it.
We can make a moderator out of you. That'd be great.
Dave, here's the thing, though. How did you get all this disparate? Because people got to understand. I mean, Dave Bossie is as hardcore as they get. Maybe not quite as hardcore as I am, but I'm a little out of control. But you do have not just a moderate wing. You have an anti-Trump wing, and I think this is what the mainstream media refuses to focus on. They have an anti-Trump wing in the RNC. It just is, because look, it's a democracy, and you got certain areas of the country are not in love with President Trump, and certain people individually. What was your selling point to say we got to go in unified and it's unanimous and we're out, right? And we'll come back with our own plan. What did you say? How did that happen?
Steve, it's such a great question. And here's the answer. It was the CPD, the Commission on Presidential Debates itself, because I took as the chairman of the Presidential Debates Committee at the RNC, I took the lead on dealing directly with Frank Fahrenkopf, one of the co-chairman of the CPD, and we started a long time ago. Actually, in January of last year, I started a dialogue, conversations with him about our problems, about our requests, about the things that we would like to see them change. And we were in what we thought was an open and honest conversation. We sent letters to them asking for them to consider the following things. The CPD told us to stuff it in our hat. They said, we make the decisions, not you. We may or may not take you and what you are asking for under consideration, but we will never let you know it. We will never tell you if we are making any changes. And it's our total control that gives us the power over you. And you're going to be a victim of what we tell you. And we educated the committee. We educated the debate committee first, and then the full RNC. And we did it over the past 14 or 15 months, methodically, systematically, going back and forth with the CPD, making our letters a little bit tougher, a little bit more pointed each time. But it was what we thought was a negotiation. And finally, they said, we're not interested. In essence, I mean, I'm summarizing it, but we then said, we are done. And we then started the process, which takes time in the RNC rules requirements. We took the time to go to the committee, our debate committee. Then we passed a resolution there. to pull out of the CPD. Then we had to go to the Rules Committee. I mean, this is a process that took really the last 6 or 9 months to get to fruition. But it was, to get to your answer, it was the slow, methodical education of the entire 168 member board of directors of the RNC, and it was the CPD's attitude itself. Yeah. They were their own worst enemy.
But here's the point I want to make in that. That's why I want you to walk through it. Because the media's going to spin, this is Donald Trump and this is the radicalization of the thing. Look, President Trump, we clearly, Farrakhan and Curry and all these guys, there are huge problems. But there's a deeper issue here. And whether you're a precinct committeeman or a school board, we got Scott Mineo coming up. We got Mark Fincher coming up. We got fighters coming up that are fighting this every day. They only have as much power as you grant them. Dave Bossie is a level-headed, even guy. Not just that, he had to deal with a committee that has an anti-Trump element to it. This vote was unanimous. That's why Andrew Mitchell's got the big crocodile tears. They're in shock because they know they got all these never-Trumpers up on MSNBC and CNN all the time. They only have as much power as we're prepared to grant them. And when these institutions that are now ossified, when you sit there and Dave Bossie says, no, let's get into a negotiation and talk about what's fair. When they just tell you, screw you, it's time not to be controlled opposition. Dave Bossie.
Isn't that, it's what our movement has been so thirsty for. So, to be honest with you, so not just the talk, but walking, right? Like we have to walk this walk. We have to sit, because you're exactly right. It's all about ceding power to them. And then the left never gives you an inch. They never give us an inch. So we have to learn to fight back as hard as they fight us. And that's the fight for America's future that we're in. For my kids and my future grandkids, I want the American dream back. Okay. I want to make America great again. And that's what we need to do. And it's only by us, everybody listening to this show today, taking back power from those who have it over us. And we have to do it every day. And I'll be honest with you, I'm proud of what the RNC did today. It's a statement against the jackbooted thugs who have had their boot on our neck.
Right.
Okay. And on the neck of President Trump in 2020 and on his neck in 2016. And before that, against Mitt Romney and against McCain and against Bush, it has gone on and on. It's just now we've said enough's enough.
It's a Trump movement. By the way, Fahrenkopf will regret that bad mic. Just kidding. Or letting Cuban get in Trump's eye line, and then we sprung the trap of the girls. That's all for another day. Bossie, congratulations.
And
one quick thing. I just had
Yes,
Cernovich, Posobiec, and Darren Beatty on here. And Darren Beatty's got a huge story in Revolver. Lead story is about your efforts and what happened with the RNC. It's blowing people's heads up. The Elon Musk situation. What's the Dave Bossie morning line on this, sir?
Look, I'm like everybody. I'm enamored. Okay, I'm swooning a little bit on what Elon Musk is doing to Twitter and how it's taking him down. I also get worried that we, as a movement, embrace him, and then a month from now he does something to harm our movement, because we then have lost credibility when we criticize. So I move slow on our dating process. Okay, we're dating right now. We're in a first date. So I think we got to have a trust but verified. In my opinion, I love what he's doing to Twitter right now. I hope he buys the whole place, and I hope he reinstates Donald Trump via Twitter, and I hope he fires the CEO via Twitter. But after that, we'll have to see what he's willing to do.
By the way, congratulations on the movie. You already got a scalp with Zuckerberg, another social media titan. Dave, how do people follow you? How do they get to the film?
Go to rigged2020.com. You can stream it from any device all across the country, all across the world. Steve, we've had over 60 nations, people in 60 different nations stream this film. Zuckerberg's reach is across the world. So is this film. It's been really exciting. It's blowing up everywhere. People need to go to rig2020.com. Watch it today. They can follow me at David_Bossie at Getter. Unfortunately, I am at the same David_Bossie on Twitter, which they shadow ban me, obviously. But please go and follow our important work, and you'll just be able to keep tabs on all these fights that we're in. And as Steve knows, I try to be in a lot of them.
Dave, the 60 countries is great. We're glad we could help out and make sure everybody knows about Rigged. But most importantly was the law firm that represents Zuckerberg and his wife. They got it, deconstructed it, and acted appropriately. So good work, sir. Keep it up. Rig 2020. It's frozen one of the most powerful guys in the world in his shoes, Zuckerberg. No more Zuckerbucks. Okay, I want to go to Michael Patrick Leahy, Star News Network. Breaking news all the time. Another big story. I'm going to talk to Gulbrandsen in a minute about the redistricting win of Governor Desantis. You've got a breaking story right now, Michael Patrick Leahy. Tell me about it.
You mean in Orlando, in the Orlando area earlier this morning, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill that will ban abortions after 15 weeks. There are a couple of exceptions. When there is a fetal abnormality that two physicians would say would be fatal, and when the mother's health is at risk. But generally speaking, this is yet another victory for the pro-life movement. And Ron DeSantis is showing he has courage to back the populist conservative agenda of Make America Great with this signing of this bill.
Okay, Captain Bannon, let's get this breaking story up on Star News on all of our platforms. Michael, I don't have time. In the same segment where Andrea Mitchell and her panel went after Dave Bossie, they also went after Ron DeSantis on this specific topic. They actually showed him signing the bill today. Twofold. Number one, they said this shows you more radicalization of the Republican Party, right? It shows you where a guy like DeSantis, who might have been a classic limited government Republican Chamber of Commerce guy, has now been so radicalized. He's backing an anti-woke agenda in the school system. He's taken on Disney. Now he's signing a pro-life bill in getting ready for Roe v. Wade to be taken down. And so number one, I want to ask you, is this in your mind a radicalization of our movement, our politicians? Then it came back after that and said, hey, this radicalization is going to really act as a call to action by all the pro-abortion people, because the Republican Party is too radical now, and they see where it's going to go on the anti-LGBT, anti-transsexual, anti-education program. You run the Star News Network. You're in every one of these major battleground states. It's one of the reasons you're a partner here on the show. What say you, sir?
I think that the signing of this bill is an indication that the pro-life movement is becoming more popular among mainstream Americans than less popular. And so we see this everywhere. This is yet another victory for the pro-life movement. It's been a long march over time since Roe v. Wade, but I think this is going to be a steady drumbeat that is going to be supported by the majority of American people. And that the radicalized elements are actually the very strong pro-abortion crowd, the far left. They are the radical ones.
I want to bring in Aaron Gulbrandsen now from Star News Network. A huge victory today. It's not sealed. It's not actually brought forward till next Tuesday or Wednesday, I think, when the special session's called. Aaron, join us here about Florida, the 20-8 map. Ron DeSantis standing tall. Well, give us an update on what's going on there.
So DeSantis was essentially running a clinic on how to stand for things that he believes in and get them done. When he lays a marker out there, he is continually getting them done. And so, as was reported earlier in the week, the legislature, which came up with their own plan that DeSantis didn't like, in an unprecedented move said, we're just going to pass whatever DeSantis came out with. Florida currently has, I believe, 16 Republican seats, and the census added another. Well, DeSantis's plan will have a 20-8 Trump. These are 20 districts that are both Republican and districts that went for Trump in 2020. If this plan is, stands up in court and all that jazz. But DeSantis laid out the most aggressive plan you could possibly make. And he also was welcome. He's saying, listen, this is constitutionally a legal plan. It doesn't counteract the Voter Rights Act. He's actually saying that the other plan, and one of the reasons he was against it ran in gerrymandered districts. DeSantis is saying 20 districts, Republicans, this is in accordance with the law. This is how it should be. And the legislator is going to go with them. It's amazing. It's a great contrast between what's happening in New Hampshire and Missouri.
Give me New Hampshire, Missouri real quickly, because I'm going to double back to DeSantis in a second. Yep. Tell me about Missouri. Tell me about New Hampshire.
Well, Missouri's in a stalemate, and they still can't agree over what we have previously discussed is not a great map, right? The 6-2 map. It is looking more and more likely every day that a court's going to wind up drawing that map, and that's not good for anybody who's rooting for the Republican side there. But the Democrats would probably be happy with the court to draw that map. Similarly, Sununu to review has vetoed the map passed by the Republican legislature, and he presented his own because he wants both districts to be purple, in using his words. The Supreme Court of New Hampshire this week has said if the legislature and Sununu in New Hampshire can't get their act together, then they are going to step in and draw the maps themselves. So you can see how much Governor DeSantis in Florida are contrasting with Missouri and New Hampshire.
Here's what's so important. The folks in Tennessee and the great Speaker of the House up there, I think, got the ball rolling as we've been covering this, really standing up the legislature, standing up there and overriding the governor's veto to get a 7-1 map in the great state of Tennessee. Ron DeSantis, and this was a combination. It was a combination of a governor that's got courage and vision. Also, people like Sabatini and others in the legislature said, "Hey, they're cutting too many deals up here." A news network like Star News Network and others are going to put reporters on the ground to report this daily, and the War Room Posse to make phone calls and bombard them. This is my point. If you act that combination on every topic we have, you're going to come out a winner. If these politicians know either somebody has their back or if they're doing something off the reservation, you're going to be all over them and hold them accountable, the world changes. And I cannot speak. I think it was Sabatini said this morning, he said, look, a lot of people in Florida just looked at this as some administrative thing that you really didn't have any control over. There was a point they were talking about a 14-14 map. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I would actually argue this 20-8 map, you can interpret this 20-8 map in certain situations as maybe even 21-7. My point is what DeSantis did here was to support the War Room, Star News Network, people in legislatures like Sabatini and others, is essentially caught back much of what other states had lost. And this is so important. This is also, I think, reinforcing the free state of Florida, what they're saying up there. Aaron, it is part of your reporting was so important here. Michael Patrick Leahy, this was just an incredible win, and there's going to be more of them. And the left is melting down every day. And they're saying this shows you the radicalization of the party. I would say something different. This is participatory populism, participatory democracy. When people have information laid out to them, they will become active. And you now know you can win in the redistricting in Florida, because that group in Tallahassee, let's just say that makes the swamp in D.C., it looks like minor league, because that's a real swamp down there. Alex, Aaron, how do they get to you? And Leahy, how do they get to you? Aaron, you first. How do they track you down to Star News Network?
You can find me on Aaron Gulbrandsen on Getter, Aaron Gulbrandsen on Getter, as well as the StarNewsNetwork.com.
Fantastic. Michael Patrick Leahy, how do people track you down?
The best way to get us, Steve, is at thestarnewsnetwork.com, thestarnewsnetwork.com. Got to give you a tip of the hat, Steve. You called it. You said it was going to be 28. I said it would be 1990. You were right on that one in Florida. By the way, plus 12 in Florida versus plus 5, which it was before this redistricting. Single-handedly, he's changing the way that the gerrymandering of the Democrats, we're giving the Democrats an advantage across the country. This kind of evens the score. A big win for DeSantis and the War Room Posse. I'll have to say that.
The reason, and by the way, everybody, the reason I was able to get that number, I read the Star News. I read Star News Network. So thank you very much, Michael Patrick Leahy. You guys are on fire. So proud of everybody in this. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have a jam second half, but we got a lot to do. I got the great warrior, Mark Fincham's here from Arizona, but Mark's got a whole nother issue. He was the lead story on Politico yesterday. They're trying to blow up Fincham. Remember, the national progressive left have taken particular interest in Mark Fincham. You know why? Because he was a guy that was a state legislature doing a good job for the folks in Oro Valley, who I know very well, who love Fincham. But all of a sudden, he stepped up onto the national stage and really stepped up now to the global stage on fighting what was 3 November, which is so important. Also going to have Scott Mineo, the governor of Virginia, Commonwealth of Virginia, has wiped out, looks like he's wiped out the school board in Loudoun County. Scott's going to join us. His organization was the tip of the spear. He's going to talk to us about how he's going to provide resources to parents across the country to actually fight back. And we're going to get into this area of sex trafficking. Okay. One of the biggest scourges in the United States. All next in War Room Battleground.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
This Sunday,
Steve Bannon, great to have you with us.
Sharry Markson sits down with Steve Bannon, who reveals the plan to impeach Joe Biden.
Joe Biden will be impeached after we take the House.
Hunter Biden's laptop with more compromising photos.
Give us a hint, what else is there on the hard drive?
Amazing incriminating evidence.
And Trump's run at 2024 re-election.
President Trump's definitely running in 2024.
7 p.m. Sunday.
Okay, the big national interview in Australia will take place Sunday evening, 7 p.m. We're going to pick it up here and put it up on the War Room on Monday. I did that with Sharry Markson. Sharry is one of the top investigative journalists, and she wrote the book about the Wuhan lab. So it's an interview you don't want to miss. I want to thank all of our big following down in Australia. You'll get to see this on Sunday, 7 p.m. on Sky. So thank you very much. Okay, we're going to push that out big tomorrow. It's Holy Thursday, Monday, Thursday. I want to welcome everybody back. Pretty intense first half of the show. It's only going to get more intense. I want to go to Fincham. Mark Fincham's running as Secretary of State, and he's endorsed by President Trump. In fact, I think he's the first Secretary of State candidate to be endorsed. And there's just an amazing number of these Secretaries of State. And everybody realizes now how important it is to get these Soros Secretaries of State, like the Katie Hobbses of the world and the Jenna Griswolds of the world, out of here. And the quality of candidates is unbelievable. Story in Politico the other day, and I'll be honest, I'm not a machine guy, and Mike Lindell knows that, although we do report on what's going on in the machines, particularly in places like Colorado. But, Mark, normally they're pounding on you for the decertification process, right, and pounding on you about the audits. They pounded on you the other day. Lead story in Politico was about CISA. Just concise, what is this about? But more importantly, why has the left media, the regime media, just gone, their heads are blown up about this, about the concept, and most importantly, that you're involved, sir?
Yeah. So Pravda America doing business as Politico, the reason their heads have blown up is because I actually followed the process that was laid out by the federal government. They're trying to contort this into something nefarious. So CISA stands for Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Pretty simple concept. Now, as I said the other day on your show, there's a difference between election integrity and election security. Election security is a term of art, speaking to the notion that if there is external penetration into an election system, because they're all electronic now, that's a problem. And CISA is the organization that's been set up to investigate that stuff. All right, so let's go back to November 30th. We took evidence and testimony that there had been an external intrusion. There were a number of people who had told me and my colleagues on that panel that we needed to look at that. So there's a form that you fill out online that goes to CISA for what's called a HERT team. It's basically a search and identify and target team.
Hold it. I just want to make sure people, it's 30 November of 2020, correct?
That's correct. That's the hearing that I held.
Yes. I just want to make sure people know the time frame. This is back in the heat of making sure the process to decertify what were going to be these illegitimate Biden electors. But keep going. 30 November 2021. Keep going.
Yeah. So 30 November 2020.
2020. Excuse me.
A year and a half ago. All right. So this came out. I mean, it's a normal document that you submit to CISA, and you record action on her team. They come in and they would, if permitted, they would be able to come in, take a look at the hard drives, take a look at the system, take a look at the routers, Maricopa County, and find out whether or not there had been a penetration of the system. Fairly simple request, but now all of a sudden they've got their panties in a bunch over it because, oh my God, he dared to actually challenge the security of the election. Okay, keep in mind, that's my job. I was elected to ask questions. I'm kind of curious, where's the news media? This is a question that they should have been asking the free press, which probably isn't so free anymore. This is a question they should have been asking November, December, January 2021. Yet they didn't. So as a part of our follow-up, as a part of our investigation, I submitted a request to CISA immediately after our hearing because we knew that we were on a very tight timeline. What people may not understand is on November 30th, that's the same day that Secretary of State Katie Hobbs and Governor Doug Ducey signed the official certification to Arizona canvass. That means you're on the clock. You have until January 6th to make your case and determine whether or not you go to the well of the Senate with evidence to show that the election was essentially flawed and needs to be returned back to the legislature for action. So it's completely normal. I'm following process. Yet Politico suddenly now wants to make me some crazy madman supporting Trump because I made an application to a federal agency that was set up for election security. Not really understanding that.
But they tried. But hang on. They tried to, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want. They tried to in the article make it like since this was at the height of the combat from 30 November to, the end of December. When all this was coming together, the investigations were coming together. They made this seem like it was nefarious. This was Trump putting his hand in the middle of this and trying to go to DHS and trying to make these claims. And this was really Trump driven more than Mark Fincher driven as someone that just wanted answers. Am I incorrect in that portrayal of what of the slant of the article?
They're trying to do that, but notice in this article, they're still using that tried and true term for the left, baseless. Baseless claims. In fact, I think if you count it, it's in there like 4 or 5 times. No, they were not baseless. They were things that we had heard, and that's why I made the decision to submit, because I was the chair of the committee, I made the decision to submit a request to CISA to have her take a look. That's their job. I was doing my job. The press wasn't doing their job. I was doing my job. So to say, well, we had to have a call 6 minutes afterward, well, perhaps they got caught not doing their job. And the fact that I submitted a request for them to do their job might have caught them, shall we say, unprepared.
Okay, before we punch out, I just want to make sure we got that clear. Rusty Bowers, the House. A lot of people have picked up my rant yesterday when you were on about the decertification process, as I'm glad they did, because it's something we're very focused and dedicated to, whether it's Wisconsin, and Judge Gableman is going to, we've had to change it up because we had other guests on tonight. Judge Gableman's going to join us on Monday to go through what's happening there. Obviously, a lot of new news coming out of Georgia. Pennsylvania, we had Corman on, who's not going to stop running for governor. He's now, he's keeping his hat in the ring. He's going to pound it out. He said a lot of stuff's going to be developed. In Arizona, we got all the evidence we need. We just got to get a vote. And I'd like to get Rusty Bowers' numbers up there because we know this audience can persuade people. Where do we stand today with Rusty Bowers, sir?
No change. But if you were to go to azleg.gov, click on House Members, you'll see the entire roster. I would remind your listeners that there's 29 Democrats that need to hear from you as well. They know that this election was irredeemably compromised. They need to hear from you as well, not just the Republicans. Now, we've got 11 Republicans that signed on to in the House that signed on to the House concurrent resolution. But that means there's still 20 that didn't. Now, some of them were open to it. We just ran out of time. But there are a few that just are absolutely recalcitrant, and they're augured in on the position that they're not going to do it. Well, that means that we need to have some Democrats come alongside of us and say, look, election integrity is more than this election. It's about all future elections. It's about the confidence that voters have in the system. And that's why I'm on this mission, Steve. I want the voters to be able to be confident that when they cast their vote, it will be counted as it's cast, and only legal ballots will be counted.
From American citizens. Okay, Mark, how do people find you on social media? How do they get to your campaign?
Probably the best way to do it is go to votefincham.com. Upper right-hand corner, they can see all the social media spots where we're trying to post as much news as we can real time. But that's VOTE, F like Frank, INCHEM like Mark.com. They click on news, they can see this spot and all the other spots that you've been so gracious to have me on.
Okay, I want to get up in social media so people can get to Rusty Bowers and let Speaker Bowers know where the posse stands. Mark Fincham, thank you very much for joining us here on Monday, Thursday.
Thank you, Steve.
One of the most holiest and sacred days of the year in the Christian calendar is today. It's Holy Thursday, Monday, Thursday. The washing of the feet and the symbolism of the washing of the feet and the Last Supper all tonight. Scott Mineo, as I talk about the destruction of the Democratic Party coming in this November at the ballot box with certifiable chain of custody, legitimate ballots and votes from U.S. citizens, we've talked about it from up and down the scale, from all the way from the school boards and the precinct committees and the election officials and county supervisors through attorney generals, secretaries of state, governors, district attorneys, to the House, where we're looking to pick up 100 seats in the House, and then to commence really the investigations that need to be done and stopping this crazy spending like it has to happen in the Senate, take control of the Senate. We are looking to destroy the Democratic Party as a national political institution. Okay, it'll still be there, but it will not be a national political institution. One of the keys is school boards. Scott Mineo, you remember, he is the head of Parents, or the founders of Parents Against Critical Theory. One of the leaders in the whole Northern Virginia area, and particularly in Loudoun County, that made that not just Virginia news, Commonwealth of Virginia news, just didn't make it national news, really made it international news. It was in the Financial Times, the Guardian, on BBC nonstop. And the reason is that those are the supporters of critical theory, and they lie and spin all the time. Scott got to the bottom of it. Scott, my first question is, Glenn Youngkin, who won because of the massive turnout of MAGA across the Commonwealth, and particularly then these moms, these enraged moms who the Department of Justice considers domestic terrorists. Now that looks like he's going to wipe the entire school board out of all 9 seats. Now I know that's still up in the air a little bit. Are you gonna lead the effort? Are you gonna run? Because you're one of the people that did the pick and shovel work here intellectually to make this a global issue. Your Parents Against Critical Theory. Scott Mineo.
No, I'm actually not going to run. I think I'm better off with the pick and shovel. What we've done since the election is, when you look at this, not just Loudoun County, but across the entire country, the problems that we're having are at the rear end of the snake, right? There's a 6-foot long snake, and the school board is at the rear end, and we're in a midterm season, and we're preparing to. There's a lot of evil players involved, and in our district, Jennifer Wexton. We're going to take her out. And we were preparing for next year for the school board election. But Governor Youngkin gave us a surprise earlier this week. So we had to kind of speed things up. And we're going to be launching LCPS.exposed. And it's going to be a comprehensive timeline for each of the last 3 years. And it's going to have all of the news stories, all of the videos, all of the FOIAs, all of anything and everything that's gone into this madness over the last 3 years, so that people don't have to search the internet to try to become reacquainted. We want to make sure when the voters in Loudoun County go to vote that they understand the whole picture. They understand everything, and they don't have to research it all again themselves. Every one of these people that are sitting on the school board need to lose, and they need to lose badly. They need to be removed. They're sick people. So using the analogy of the snake, going after Jennifer Wexton,
go ahead.
She's got over 12 bills as a congressional person, a congresswoman, that support the LGBTQ plus narrative. Now, that whole narrative is, as you know, injected into all this critical race theory, queer theory, any other kind of theory you can think of. And we have to take her out. And what we've done, Virginia Overwatch is an organization that we created after the election. And the intent there is we've established something called a candidate reality assessment, whereby we take all of this stuff out there that people have to go and research themselves: news articles, videos, historical information, associations with notorious groups, donors, who they donate to, and we funnel it down into 3 categories: progressive ideology, corruption, and deception. And for Jennifer Wexton, we've created Wexit2022.com. Everything you need to understand about this woman is posted there. Why? So you don't have to go research it for yourself. And that's what we're doing for the LCPS.exposed.
Okay, LCPS is obviously the Loudoun County School Board. But here's the question I have, Virginia Overwatch. Is this something, I want to make sure everybody can go to it, but I want to have you on next week. Is this a template that we can actually do this in other congressional districts or go to other states? Could we have Kansas Overwatch? Could we have Kentucky Overwatch? Is this something that could be broadened out beyond the Commonwealth of Virginia?
100%. One of the things that we're doing in the state of Virginia next year, we have a big election. We have the delegates, we have the Senate, we have Board of Supervisors across the state. So what we're doing is we have another website that's going to roll out here. It's actually partnered with Project Restore Virginia, and that'll be rolling out in about a month or so. And what we're doing is collecting all the information. When I say information, I mean all the elected officials across the entire state, down to the dog catcher, right? And then we're going to apply a scoring system. But also at vaoverwatch.com, the other thing that I think is really critical, Steve, is not everybody is a door knocker. Not everybody wants to go out and cheerlead for a candidate. So we've created something called Interactive Quest, whereby we pose some questions that we hope to gather some feedback from the communities or varying communities across the state. And with those questions, It will help expand our database of information to expose people. We've taken out over 40 domains for each of the Board of Supervisors next year, state politicians like Abigail Spanberger. And this model, yes, could absolutely be rolled out to every other state, because what we're doing is going right at it.
Okay, we got to bounce, but I got to have the people go now to Virginia Overwatch. Where should they go this weekend to check this out? Virginia Overwatch, is that already up and running?
Yes, sir. It's VirginiaOverwatch.com, Wexit2022.com, and there's also another site called transtakeover.info.
Okay, so we're going to get those all up on all of our different platforms, and we'll push them out, and we're going to have you back next week. I want to have, because this is something we want to roll out to all 50 states. This is what I was talking about. You take over crush the Democratic Party. This is the anvil. You got to have this type of information so people remember we're taking them out the ballot box so they can never return. Scott Mineo did such an amazing job on PAC, Parents Against Critical Theory, that we're very enthusiastic about this. We look forward to having you back next week. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, sir.
Just incredible. Okay, I want to go. Landon Starbuck is a spouse of one of the great guys running for Congress out in Tennessee, Robbie Starbuck. Robbie's right now in a fight whether he's going to be on the ballot or not, but she actually runs a organization, Freedom Forever. Tell us, what is Freedom Forever? And particularly in this environment, we just went through this horrific confirmation of the Supreme Court justice, with all this child pornography. What is Freedom Forever, Landon, and why is it important?
Freedom Forever is a nonprofit combating child exploitation and trafficking in America. I saw a need working in this space for over 10 years for these sensitive topics that many other organizations are unwilling to touch, specifically child exploitation and trafficking at our southern border and what is happening right now in the battleground of our schools.
Landon, how big I think people started to realize when Liz Ure and others came on during this confirmation hearing, the overwhelming scale of the child pornography, and it's really about child torture and rape and the rape of infants and small children. How big a scourge is this? Is trafficking, human sex trafficking at the southern border?
Well, this is interesting because we know that 29.3 million reports of suspected child sexual abuse material are reported to NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. What we don't know and have numbers on is the numbers of children that are exploited, trafficked, sexually abused, raped at our southern border. And we don't have that because they are hiding these numbers. And one of the things that my organization sets out to do, whether it's FOIA requests or internal investigations, alliances, and partnerships, both forward-facing and private, to expose this hidden agenda, to conceal these numbers that we need, because the reason they're concealing these numbers is it is an epidemic of what's happening. Children are being abused every single day at our southern border, and they're hiding this. And I went down to the southern border with my husband, Robbie, and we organized one of the largest protests and advocacy organized efforts at our southern border to expose what was happening.
This is what Liz Yours told us at this. There's 24 million hits at the cyber, complaints at the cyber center for the child pornography. 24 million. And what Landon Starbuck's telling us, we don't even have the number of the pandemic on the southern border because they're hiding it. Landon, we got to bounce. We're going to have you back on. What's the site that people go to and how they follow you on social media? This is the first of many times we'll have you on because we got to get to the bottom of this pandemic. It's just not acceptable in this country to have this happen. So how do people find out more about you and your organization?
Absolutely. You can follow me on social media at Landon Starbuck and go to freedomforever.us. And thank you again for having me and covering this important topic, Steve.
No, Landon, I got to tell you, people's heads blew up when Liz Ure told them the 24 million. And then somebody told me Robbie's wife is working on this on the southern border and the numbers are massive and they suppress the information. Landon, thank you so much. Look forward to having you back on. Okay.
Thanks so much.
There's so much going on tomorrow morning. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock. Peter Navarro is going to be my wingman, or maybe even better. I'll be back at 5 o'clock tomorrow. We got Dr. Taylor Marshall, got Rabbi Sparrow and Boris Epstein tomorrow at 6. Tomorrow is going to be a hot day. Everything happened on Elon Musk. This battle for control of the global public square is going to continue, and we're going to have wall-to-wall coverage on it. Be back here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and all the stories out of Shanghai tomorrow morning in the War Room.